Hello. I made a video previously about I made a response video in response to D'Angelo's video of him talking about um a response video to D'Angelo's Michael Jackson video about him talking about Michael Jackson's defenders, and I was pretty angry in that video. I was pretty irritated. I wanted to make a follow-up video about that. Because whenever I get passionate about something that I just have to voice, like I just really need to get it out. I have to talk about it. I have to talk about it. So I went on a very long rant, and I was pretty passionate and irritated and kind of angry in that video. And I wanted to follow up on it. So yeah, I keep coming across a part of the fandom that irritates the shit out of me about the MJ fandom. And not that there's anything wrong with it as a whole. Every fandom, by default, you're a part of a fandom. You get grouped in a box with a fandom, whether you associate with a community or fandom or not. You're by default. If you are a huge fan of something or someone, you naturally draw those kind of people towards you. You naturally see what goes on around a lot of people like you, that are like you. And I mentioned this in the last video that I made about this topic, and I keep running across that problem. Like the MJ, a big chunk of the MJ fandom completely dismissing Michael's behavior. And like I said in the last video, I am a hundred percent supporter of Michael Jackson's innocence, his everything. I will always defend Michael's innocence of actually literally violating, like doing the act of violating kids. I will always believe his innocence because of the proof out there that heavily contradicts him actually doing horrible things to those children. Do the research. It is out there. Go research it, find it, look at it. You can still have whatever opinion you feel you'd like about it, but it'll make you second guess how you feel because of what we have out there that contradicts those allegations completely. And now I said what I said on that point. That's my um heads up, like, okay, I do believe he's innocent. I'm a huge MJ fan. I've been obsessed with him since I was 7. Don't get don't don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I love everything he stands for. I love everything that he was about. Okay, cool. Now, like I said in the last video, we talk about humanizing Michael, bringing him down off of the pedestal, like at a lot of times he wanted, and like at a lot of times his fans also wanted. When part of humanizing somebody, like Michael himself, that also invites your ability to call out when he's wrong. And when something that he does or says is not okay, right? Cool. I don't think that there is anything wrong with a fan or a non-fan, not the word speculate, but there's nothing wrong with somebody not agreeing with how he, little parts of how he chose to live out that stolen childhood of his, which was very sacred. I personally believe that Michael unintentionally self sabotaged his career and his image in that era that we all know about, in that specific part of his life. Like, it's just so irritating because he worked so hard to get everything that he had, and it was violated. It was destroyed, especially in those police raids, those searches. They went through everything that was super sacred and private to him, that had different meaning, completely different meanings to him than it did other people. And I felt like, though there are a lot of people that were a bunch of douchebags, there were also a lot of enablers that were surrounded by Michael. Um, a lot of people that excused his behavior, people that didn't really, I kind of want to say, didn't really check him in a way, or like bring him back to reality. And I don't mean it in a rude way, obviously. And it sucks that there probably has been people that felt like they couldn't say really anything because either they wanted money or Michael would get rid of them if they tried to tell Michael what he needed to hear. I felt like Michael had a lot of echo chambers around him, and I feel like part of the fandom represents some of those echo chambers. Some of those fans enable that behavior, which led to Michael almost getting fucking found guilty in court, right? Like that was a close call. And as we all saw with our very own eyes in real time and looking back on footage, the trial whooped Michael's ass, like really bad. Like it whooped his ass. His health was his health was really going through it. And I just hate that that was his wake up call. Instead of the strip search being his wake up call, it had to be trial. Because we all noticed ever since trial, there wasn't really any reports after that. After he was acquitted and found innocent, rightfully so, um, we didn't hear really any reports of anything. He treaded lightly after that. Let's say that. He treaded lightly after that. And I hate that that's what it took. You feel me? Like, the trial just put the final nail in the coffin for his fucking image at that time. And kind of forever on, besides his supporters. And fans, this is why people that do believe his guilt, people that do believe that Michael did something to them, to those kids, to those children, this is part of why they still believe what they believe, is because a lot of the fans like completely dismiss that and completely brush over it. Like, no, that wasn't normal to do. It wasn't normal to do. And of course, his mindset was in the right spot. His intentions were awesome. His intentions were great. Michael didn't intentionally put himself in those positions, but in a way, he was unintentionally a part of his own sabotage. Like, he sabotaged himself as well. Yes, there were a lot of douchebags that took advantage of an overly kind-hearted man that had no boundaries and took advantage of that. But on the other half, there's the other side that Michael kind of set himself up to be that easy target. Um, and fans who completely dismiss that, I feel like they are part of the example of the people that surrounded him. They are part of the example, they're like an example of people who enabled his behavior, and that's part of how he got in so much trouble and so much grief. Like, I hate when fans brush over that and they completely attack those that speculated. And though it's a bunch of bullshit, it's like fans need to stop immediately attacking people who do that. And I'm not talking about the people who actually believe Michael did the act of assaulting those children. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones that kind of are kind of off put by the guy's behavior a little bit. And Michael was a beautiful soul. He had a beautiful heart based off of his actions, his humanitarian work, his charity work, everything like that. Like, that was a big part of what represented his golden heart, literally. And but we can forget what comes with a golden heart and a good soul. That comes with a curse. You know that comes with a curse. And I saw a video, not the whole thing. I saw a little bit of some psychologist, not psychologist, or some sort of person that was degreed in that or something like that. And it was a woman who released it recently, talking about just because he admitted it doesn't make it okay. Sorry about the noise. Um, doesn't make it okay. And I watched a little bit of that, and I already knew what she was going to say. I didn't even finish the whole thing. I already knew what she was going to say. And I agree with what she's saying. Just because he admitted it doesn't make it okay. Now, him admitting that, yes, this is the way I had fun with these children. I slept in the bed with them. They slept in my room, but I've never done the act of what people think I did. And though I believe that still adds to his innocence, because that showed that he genuinely believed that that's how the world should be celebrating childhood, and he genuinely believed that he was doing things for the right reason, and he was. But that doesn't make it okay. Mainly for his sake. And the reason why some of us stress this is because if that was normalized, we have a lot of real monsters and fucking pedos out there that would have loved to have the same luxury as Michael. Love to have the same luxury, love to have the same kind of power. So this is why we can't normalize it, because there are real victims and real monsters out there that would love to be in Michael's shoes. So this is why this is something that we can't normalize, just because sleeping in the bed with a grown man does heighten the risk of wrongdoing. Again, this is not me saying that this was Michael, but this is just in general. And yeah, I just don't like that some fans, a good chunk of fans, dismiss that Michael was amazing, this and this and that, but he should have had boundaries. And it sucks that Michael didn't understand other people's points of view about why that would seem alarming, why that would seem weird. And instead he would flip it and go, your mind is in the gutter. For some people, that could be the truth. But in reality, sorry about that. But yeah, just to wrap it up, that's just how I feel. I think us MJ fans need to stop enabling that. We need to, and if we if Michael's spirit or something got angry at that, like you can't be afraid. Like, yeah, like he would probably be upset by that, but that would be something that Michael needed to think about. Like, yes, Michael, you're doing God's work by doing what you do with the organizations and charity. Don't ever change that. And I feel like part of that behavior is, I feel like that's part of what made his love life also a little difficult. Um, I wish Michael could have had that kind of happiness, having a good woman and kept the woman, right? Kept her for a long time. Um, had children, find a woman that wants your children. It's just like I wish Michael could have had that, but I can't help but think about how that troubling part of his life kind of interfered with him finding a good functional love life. And there's celebrities that have a good partner and they're making it work and they get married and they have a great time. And I wish Michael would have had that, long term. But I can't help that that was part of the reason why he couldn't find a good love life for long, because of that troubling part of his life. And I honestly can't blame anybody, and I also feel like that's part of why people weren't around when Michael needed people the most, was because they didn't want to be associated with something that was very troubling. Being accused of child abuse is very serious, and your career is going to be at risk. And I don't think people wanted to be a part of that, and it sucks because Michael was at his lowest and he needed people. He needed genuine people, but even though I believe that there should have been some people that still should have stuck by his side regardless. And he had people that stuck by his side. But it sucks that, he didn't have really a proper fulfilling love life and things like that. I just wish, he was surrounded more by people that told Michael what he needed to hear. And, um, yeah, we need to stop enabling that kind of behavior from Michael. Um, that wasn't okay. It wasn't okay. And mainly for Michael's sake, because yeah, we all saw how that panned out. Michael's life was a great example of letting your past consume you. That was a great example of what we saw. His past consumed him, and I wish he would have found therapeutic ways to try to let that go. So yeah, that's just how I feel. I will always love Michael's art, his personality, the way he was, his quirks, his little weirdness. Like, I loved everything about that's what made him different. But I just wish he had people that didn't enable everything, and it could have protected him from a lot. And the real kicker is like, or the real hitter is, he would still be here. I strongly believe Michael would still be here had he would have had more people surrounded by him that told him what he needed to hear. And part of how that can happen is, right, Michael has to be the one to allow surrounding himself by people that told him what he needed to hear, but he didn't. He didn't. And I feel like that's part of why he's not here. He had a lot of he allowed a lot of sharks and a lot of vampires and a lot of douchebags to be surrounded by him. And a lot of people took advantage of him. And it's a very complex situation to be in. And yeah, that's just how I feel. Uh, I feel like us as fans shouldn't be afraid to not dismiss that Michael, though he had a lot of blessings and he had a lot of great things about him, he also had a lot of flaws. And part of that, we have to be, it's very uncomfortable, but it has to be something that we have to address. You know, we have to address it. That, and this is what people mean by when they say, is the biopics, are they going to shy away from that? Are they going to dive into that? Because that is something that we need to address, right? Also show his innocence, but also show that Michael had some questionable behaviors. That from Michael's point of view, genuinely thought that he was in a whole different reality. And Michael thought because his heart was in the right place, because he had great intentions, the world would see it that way. And he was in for a rude surprise. Just because your heart is in the right place doesn't mean that that's how your actions will come across. And inviting people to his Neverland and stuff was great. I think it was wonderful. I think it was refreshing. It was down to earth. But I feel like if he wanted to invite people inside, the living room is where he should have kept everything. The spending the nights, and he should have kept it in the living room. The bedroom should have been off limits. Like, yeah, they like to follow me into the bedroom, the bathroom. Yeah, but you're the adult. That's the downfall of befriending such a vulnerable group of people, children, is because they don't have a backbone. They can't say no. So the very minute that someone forces them to go against you, they're going to do it, right? Why? Because they're vulnerable. And anything that goes wrong, they're going to blame Michael because he's the adult. He is the adult and he's the one that's supposed to know better. So that's just part of the downfall of befriending children. And I know Michael wanted to live out what was stolen from him. And unfortunately, unfortunately, he's just going to have to he should have found other groups of friends, which he did, but he should have invested more of his time in adult friendships than kid friendships, because that was just troubling for all sorts of reasons, for all sorts of obvious reasons. So yeah, that's just how I feel. Us fans need to stop enabling that, stop excusing that, and just stop brushing over it. Use Michael Jackson's stolen childhood as a supporting reason as to why he was how he was. Don't use his stolen childhood as an excuse. We need to stop using that as an excuse and use that as a supporting reason as to why he was how he was, not an excuse. So that's how I feel. Rest in peace, Michael. Bless your heart entirely. That's just, yeah, that's the curse of a genius. You know, you have a lot of flaws, and those are one of them. And us as fans need to stop excusing that and own up that that was questionable for all sorts of obvious reasons. Not that it had anything to do with his wrongdoing, but part of humanizing Michael is also calling out when he's wrong and what he could have done better. And that's just how it is. We got to stop being afraid of doing that. Call out what he did wrong and call out what he could have learned from. You know? But yes, that's how I feel. And love to Michael, love to all his supporters and his family, dear God, and his friends and everyone who stood by his side, everybody who was there with him till the very end. Yeah, most definitely. I am one of Michael's biggest supporters from afar. Naturally, I'm a fan. I'm one of his biggest supporters. I will always be one of his biggest supporters till the day that I take my last breath. So, but yeah, when it comes to that, that's a topic that we can't be afraid to discuss. That's a topic that we can't be afraid to talk about. So yeah, that's how I feel. And yeah, um have a great day, you know? Hopefully this gives you something to think about when it comes to something like that. As long and know how to conversate with people that question Michael's behavior. As long as no one gets, for me, it's as long as nobody gets disrespectful about Michael and they want to genuinely know why he was how he was. And, you know, don't be afraid to have a calm conversation with those people. Don't be afraid to have a calm conversation with people that genuinely want to know.